Well, welcome to the fifth in a series of political candidate forums in advance of the August 23rd primary election. This forum, a cooperative production of the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee, the Tallahassee Democrat, and WFSU Public Media. Our candidates today are running for the Tallahassee City Commission Seat 4 race, which is also the mayoral seat for the city. I'm Tom Flanagan from WFSU Public Media, and I'm joined by William Hatfield from the Tallahassee Democrat and Danielle Irwin from the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee. And we're going to be questioning the candidates on various topics today. So let's take a quick look around at the ground rules and then meet the candidates themselves.
All right, the candidates for Tallahassee mayor, sitting left to right in alphabetical order, are incumbent John E. Daly, Kristen Elizabeth Dozer, Michael Ibrahim, and Whitfield Leland III. For those of us watching us on social media, please hit the share button and help all your friends see today's discussion as well. Here is how today's forums are going to work. We will rotate which candidate gets to answer first. We have a lot of questions, so we're going to ask the candidates to keep your answers to about 60 seconds, sometimes shorter for follow-ups. We'll tell you kind of what the timer length is on each question. We will also be keeping time. And you will know when your time is up because you will hear this. You don't have to come to a dead stop right then, but finish your sentence and we're going to move on. In the middle of the forum, we will have a lightning round where we ask you to keep your answers to just one sentence. At the end of the forum, we're going to give you 90 seconds to make the case directly to voters and share your website or any other important information.
If you're watching on Facebook and you have questions for the candidates, go ahead and type them into the comments and we'll get to them, as many of them as we can. Time is very limited, so you can improve your chances of your question being asked if you keep it brief and polite. Make it a question applicable to all the candidates. Candidates, do you have any questions? All right, let's jump in with the first question.
Let us do that, and we'll kind of start off with the, I guess, the 30,000-foot overview question here. And we'll start off by going on camera here, as you can see, from left to right. And we'll start with Mr. Daly and work our way on down the list. What is the number one issue affecting the city of Tallahassee and why? You have 1 minute, Mr. Daly.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Tallahassee Democrat and the League of Women Voters and WFSU for hosting us today, and this is a great forum. Thank you. So we have a lot of issues that we're facing as a community, all of them that we're working hard, bringing people together. But if I have to focus on one in particular right now, it is housing. Housing is a critical issue that we face here in Tallahassee, and making sure that we have enough affordable housing, low-income housing, and very low-income housing.
All right. Kristen Dozier, your turn.
Thank you, Tom. I'm also very glad to be here today with all of my fellow candidates. Campaigns keep us running. I'm going to say at the onset here a little disclaimer. My face is a little swollen, had a little issue, so I hope it looks all right on the camera. The number one issue affecting the city today, from my perspective, is jobs and workforce training. We need to have more jobs and diversify our economy, and jobs for people who with all different types of income levels. And this is really important because it's how people can afford to pay rent, how they may afford to buy a home, to feed their families, to support themselves, and to really be a part of our civil and our community, our civil society and our community. We need to focus on jobs, and this is a critical issue in this race because of the decision with Campbell Stadium. We have to get even more creative, and we have to find new ways and work with all of our partners in our community to get the job done.
Thank you very much. Michael Ibrahim, your turn, sir.
I thank you all for inviting me. The number one issue I think that is facing Tallahassee's residents is actually a 3-in-1 issues, and it is housing, homelessness, and safety of our citizens. And I think they're all related. And I think working on one issue, which is mainly housing, can help us eliminate the homelessness situation and improve our safety. And I have a plan, and I hope I can get it to work with y'all help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we conclude the opening question with Mr. Whitfield Levin III.
If I had one thing, I'd say fighting poverty. I think the issues that we face stems from actually the basics, the base of poverty. If we don't address poverty, we can create jobs, we can create homes, but if people are living in poverty that can't afford or don't have a foundation, none of that's going to be helpful to the people that's in the area. So I think if we focus on poverty, which all our other issues stem from, and really truly address it, which you address homelessness, you address violence, gun violence, you address maybe even the housing market, because people will be able to really afford what we have out there. It's plenty of places to stay here. Nobody can afford them. Everybody's been displaced, and our homelessness is rising. The numbers are rising daily. So that's what I would do.
All right. I'm glad you all mentioned all those things because we're going to be talking more about each and every one of them. We're going to start with crime. Kristen Dozier, this question is inspired by one from the Urban League. By our count on Tallahassee.com, 12 people have been killed, 48 have been injured, and 74 serious shootings this year in the capital city and county. Just this weekend, a man was shot while on a scooter in a drive-by shooting. Don't know yet if he was the intended target. What specific initiatives will you take to make our communities safe from crime? A minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you for the question. This is very important. I understand why it's at the top of the issues here. Listening to the other candidates' forums over the last few weeks, I think it's notable that every forum you come to, you can say just last weekend or just in the last week, because we are seeing shootings almost every few days here. We know that the mass shootings and the tragic events in other communities around the country get a lot of attention, but it is those day-to-day incidents of violence that really impact our neighborhoods. I am proud to have supported the sheriff initiative for the Commission on the Status of Men and Boys. And the reason why I want to start there, based on his Anatomy of a Homicide report, is that we need to do things different. We've been talking about these issues for a long time. There's been one panel after another, one plan after another. We're not getting the job done. And I think what that report really showed us and highlighted, and importantly, the commission can help bring some plan or some action steps to fruition, is looking at how to prevent some young folks from getting into crime and then leading to gun violence. I'm glad that the city and the school board also support that effort, and TPD. I think we need to double down and really have regular updates from the meetings and take action as quickly as possible. The City Commission has decided to set aside $1 million for gun violence. I think that's good, but we need to make sure that funding goes to new initiatives, not just existing.
All right. Michael Ibrahim, same question.
I think lack of education when it comes to firearm is a major problem of shooting. A lot of younger folks think a gun is a toy, and it's not. It is a tool, and it's mainly used, hopefully, to defend yourself against someone who is trying to harm you or harm your family. We do not educate our children about guns. We expect them to get educated about guns from the internet or video games, and this is our biggest problem. We have to educate our children that guns are tools, they're not toys, and to pull a trigger is something that is very absolute. You cannot take it back. You cannot respawn. It's not a video game. It's real life. And I think to solve the gun problem, we have to educate our children at maybe high school level, how to use, how to operate a gun, and what is it to mean that you have or you own a gun, and that it's not a toy. You can end up in someone's life very easily, and you will destroy your life in the process. And this is, a lose-lose situation. No one wins. And I think to curb the gun violence, I think we have to have education in regard of what guns can do and what guns should be used for. As far as, thank God, we haven't seen any mass shooting in Tallahassee, thank God, but we cannot just wait for that to happen. We have to make sure we can prevent that from happening.
Thank you. Whitfield Leland III.
Yes. I want to, first of all, I want to thank the city for taking the initiative to set aside $1 million for the next 5 years for gun violence. But, you know, everybody referenced to Sheriff Walkmanier's report, but we're not. We're looking at the report as gun violence, gun violence. But what he said this stems from, like poverty. Until we address poverty, we're going to continue to have gun violence. So, and a couple forums back, I've, you know, asked a couple of people would they support a $2 million initiative to strictly address poverty for the next 5 years. If we're going to put money to address an issue, if we want to stop the gun violence, we got to get at the root of it. And the root of it is poverty. If you walk through these neighborhoods, the same neighborhoods, matter of fact, I was driving, I took pictures. There's nothing creative to do in these neighborhoods. You have basketball courts that have the backboards out. Even at some of our little parks that we implemented as holding ponds, it's nothing for these kids and families to do. We have to get back to building families. And the only way we're going to do that is we're going to have to put initiatives out to fight poverty. And my goal is for us to build a relationship with our law enforcement and to get them in the community and out so that they meet the residents.
Thank you. John Daly.
Thank you for the question. And first of all, I want to thank all the members of the Tallahassee Police Department that work really hard day in and day out to keep us safe. Violent crime is not an issue that was created overnight, nor are we going to solve it overnight. And I'm proud to have the endorsement of the PBA because they believe in me as the mayor that has the plan and the relationships to be able to work with law enforcement to move us forward. We need to strengthen what is working, and we need to think outside the box. Our Tempo program is second to none. It's nationally recognized for its excellence. We've graduated over 1,000 at-risk youth, half of which had some type of brush with law enforcement coming in, and we've had zero recidivism. We need to strengthen. We need to bring more people to the table, and we need to recruit more at-risk youth to participate because of the success that it's shown. But we also need to think outside the box, and I appreciate my colleagues' kind words because I was the individual that brought the issue to the table and made the motion to set aside $1 million in our budget for the next 5 years, specifically for gun violence disruption programs here in Tallahassee. We have to think creative. We have to think different. But we also have to keep in mind that there's a mental health issue here in Tallahassee that goes hand in hand as well. That's why I was so proud to also bring to the table and have it be unanimously supported by the City Commission our TEAM program, which is our mental health response unit through 911. Through the pilot itself, it was 8 months long, and we were able to help hundreds, if not thousands of people here in Tallahassee. That is very important that we keep the two in mind, both mental health and violent crime.
Thank you. So heard the 1 million talked about a lot here. So a quick follow-up on that, 30 seconds. The city, of course, is poised to invest $1 million annually over the next 5 years to stem the bloodshed from gunfire. I mean, it sounds like there's not a lot of strings to this money, and the options and possibilities are wide open. How specifically should we spend that money to get the most impact? And this is going to be 30-second follow-up. We're going to start with you, Michael Ibrahim.
Question. So the $1 million, this is $1 million every year or $1 million for the next 5 years?
I believe it's $1 million for the next 5 years.
So that's about 200,000 a year, or maybe
no, it's $1 million every year for the next 5 years.
$1 million every year.
Yep.
Okay. So definitely on education, educating the youth that guns are not toys, they are tools, and they could do a lot of damage, and they could also protect. Education matters. Educating the youth that it's not a video game, understanding that if you hit someone with a firearm, there is consequences, and you basically destroy your life by doing that.
Whitfield Leland III.
Community relationships. That's just that simple. I think, you know, if you look at, you know, what's going on, the community have a problem with the badge. They don't trust the badge. So until we can get them to, if we can build them to see them as people first, then we'll build a better relationship when they're in their uniforms. But we got to get our community to see our officers as people before the badge, because in our community, to be honest, the badge is tainted when we looking at law enforcement.
Thank you. John Daly.
I am the mayor that is continuously bringing people to the table to figure out our course of action and move forward. That is good, solid public policy. But it's also important to make sure that we are in a budgetary place so that when we have that idea and we're ready to execute it, we can fully fund it. The reason why I set aside $1 million a year for 5 years is to make sure that it is a sustainable program that we can go year in and year out. And I think it's going to work. So we are in the process right now of identifying exactly what programs to launch here in Tallahassee, and we have the funding set aside specifically.
Thank you. Kristen Dozier.
Thank you. I do think we need to get the best impact. The Tempo program is working, but they have other funding resources. We need to use this funding for other types of training programs and other new ideas that may come from the Commission on the Status of Men and Boys, but also other sources. We have seen an approach from the city for a long time that kind of describes as the city knows best. They don't necessarily partner with other organizations for programs as often as we should. And I think a distinction might be with this $1 million, they're going to have community conversations, other things like that. But how do we get to the direct action? We keep planning at the city and we're not seeing direct action.
Thank you. How would you rate the current effectiveness of TPD at addressing the issue of gun violence? In Whitfield, Leland III, we're going to start with you on that. In a 1 to 10 even. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you going to rate TPD's effectiveness in addressing the issue of gun violence?
To be totally honest, I think they're doing the best they can. Like I would give it an 8, you know. Normally when someone is, you know, shot or killed in our community, I get a phone call and sometime I'm there. I even, you know, refer back to the chief. At the end of the day, they're doing the best they can. I've even seen some officers pull over, and I just pull over just to watch to see. At the end of the day, like, it is not the police fault. We have to understand that. It is a community effort. Like,
Thank you. Mayor Daly, same question, 30 seconds.
Oh, I would rank the police department very high. Nobody's perfect, no organization's perfect, and we need to continue to move forward. But we got a police department that created a youth advisory council, that created the citizens advisory council, that created the police reform board, review board, to make sure that our best practices are working. When you look at our police officers that are out there on the bikes with the community policing program, they are working day in and day out to keep us safe, and I appreciate that. But let's also remember that we cannot depend on law enforcement alone to solve violent crime.
Thank you.
It's all of us together.
Kristen Dozier.
Well, I concur with my colleagues that the police department is not responsible for everything, and they're doing quite a good job with a huge challenge. I think improving some coordination and relationships with the sheriff's department is good. And I know the city is focused on TPD, but we are one city, one county, and coordination will help all of us. The second part is giving them resources to help connect with other nonprofits and other community groups. They are not responsible, and they cannot solve every issue that leads to gun violence.
Thank you.
So we need to build those connections.
Michael Ibrahim, same question.
Cops are working very hard here in Tallahassee. Tallahassee Police Department, I believe, is underfunded. I think we should take more care of our police officers. There are very valuable resources, and the sacrifices that they do every day for us as a community is something that we have to applaud every day, because as a business owner, I would not feel safe if cops are not around to make sure things are secure.
Thank you.
9 out of 10 for TPD.
Last question on crime. John Daly, you have this one. Not far from here, a pretty horrific situation is unfolding. Our neighboring county is grappling with what the DEA calls a probable mass fentanyl poisoning event in which a bad batch of drugs has killed 9 people in just a few days. Is Tallahassee prepared to deal with something like this? And if not, what would you propose? 30 seconds.
Sure. Well, I'm not in a position to go into detail on air right now, but I can assure you that the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, all of our state law enforcement agencies and federal agencies work hand in hand on these multitask issues, specifically drugs. Whether it's the drugs that are coming across the border from Georgia and Alabama, whether they're coming from the Panhandle or from South Florida, they work in strong coordination, and they're going to do everything they can to keep us safe.
Thank you. Kristen Dozier.
Thank you. Really feeling for our friends and our neighbors in Gadsden County today. This is a significant event, and your question is really timely. Are we prepared to deal with it? I do think our law enforcement partners are prepared to deal with this, but I have a question of whether or not we as a community are prepared to respond. There are other assistance that need to be available to those who are addicted to drugs or prone to this. And we need to, again, collaborate with others to make sure that
Thank
we
you.
can respond and address this before it happens.
Michael Ibrahim, same question.
Drugs is very evil. They destroy lives, they destroy families, and they are a road of no return. And for people to take heavy drugs, it's not the officers or it's not the cops that they can tell someone not to take drugs. It's that someone have to decide, hey, I want to stop taking drugs. And I think the city have to have programs that help with people who have been taking drugs prior and to help prevent the use from taking drugs.
Thank you. Whitfield Leland III.
I think it's like we see courses of drugs. It was MDMA a couple years ago. They call it Molly. We see the drugs coming in these communities and taking effect. Our law enforcement has always been there to be ready for the situation. I'm like Commissioner Dozier said, my only concern, because I see it in my community every day, is we prepared to deal with it.
Thank you.
So I heard affordable housing mentioned in some of the opening remarks. Let's dig a little deeper on that. Kristen Dozier, we'll start with you on this one. What is the first specific action you would propose to address the need for affordable housing beyond what is already being done? And you have 1 minute.
Thank you. This is a very critical issue, and I'm proud of the work that the city and the county have done together over the last few years. I was a leading voice in creating the land trust that allows us to develop affordable housing throughout the community. And one of the specific actions that I would take is to look at the policies within the city of Tallahassee. Like the county, they donate property to Habitat or to others. But we have also seen city-owned property sold for student housing complexes or other types of construction. When the city owns property, that is the one time that we may dictate what we want to see on that property. I don't think we've done a good enough job in really getting creative about placing that property either in the land trust or having an RFP for buyers who will build affordable housing. And there's a wide range of affordable housing, from permanent supportive for those experiencing homelessness all the way through just general affordable housing for our workforce. We need to tackle all of this.
Thank you. Same question to you, Michael Ibrahim.
So we need more affordable housing, and I think the way we can get this is to look at other cities that had a problem with affordable houses and how they have solved it. So let's say we have a developer coming in and they're proposing to build multi-million-dollar community in Tallahassee. We have to create a fund in which those developers would put a percentage of the proposed amount of money that they will use in order to build that multi-million-dollar apartment to go toward affordable houses, in which that fund can create and maintain affordable houses, in which it will have limit on rent. It will have a lot of affordable houses to take care of the families that cannot afford to pay $2,000 a month in rent. That fund will be maintained by the city, and it will, in order for a developer to come in the city to develop, they have to put part of their development funds into that fund for that to be used to build affordable houses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whitfield Leland III, what specific actions would you propose to address affordable housing?
Well, first of all, I would really like to really define what we as a community consider affordable housing, because affordable housing to some ain't affordable to others. And I would like to create incentives for building incentives for builders to encourage to build homes for families. That's a more meaningful contribution to the community. Apartments, high rises, student housing, I mean, that doesn't fit the residents of this community. The students are only here for 4 years, and some of them leave and some of them don't stay. So I think we need to look at building for families and not building up and build out, and make it more affordable for people to own homes and not just live by affordable rent.
Thank you. We'll finish off this question with John Daly.
I sit as a member of the city's Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. I pay attention to this issue day in and day out because it's near and dear to me. At the City of Tallahassee, it is one of our top priorities, and I'm proud to say that we have more affordable housing units in the pipeline right now than we've had for the past 4 decades put together. But it's not enough. We have to continue to work. And that's why I strongly supported, and the inclusionary housing ordinance for the City of Tallahassee is working, and we look forward to the county joining us. That is why we have made strides for land use changes where we can convert old apartment complexes into studio apartments for affordable housing. This is why we have invested millions of dollars in infrastructure projects and why the blueprint vote is so important on the South Side. We invest in our neighborhoods. We invest in public utilities. We invest in those things that help spur good, solid housing for the residents of Tallahassee. So we've got a good start. We're moving forward. We're getting creative with land use, land trust, inclusionary housing ordinance, and we're putting millions of dollars into the programs.
Thank you very much.
Folks, under our current makeup of municipal government here in Tallahassee, the mayor has the same powers essentially as all 4 other city commissioners, but the main role is perhaps to serve as the face of Tallahassee. So what do you think the outside perception of Tallahassee is right now? And Mr. Ibrahim, let's start with you.
We can look at the amount of students that come in town and leave after graduating, and that would tell us what the outside look toward our community is. Most students that come to FSU, they come, spend 4 years, and leave. They come to FAMU, spend 4 years, and leave. And this is because Tallahassee doesn't have a lot of things to offer to the younger generations. And one of the things that I would like to build in Tallahassee is an actual water park. I think as a city, as a Floridian, as the Florida's capital, we don't have anything to do with the beach, and that's geography. We can't blame geography for that. But why not have a water park, an indoor water park like the one in Germany, where it operates all year? It could be a public-private partnership to build it. It will bring a better quality of life to the city. It will attract more younger folk to stay in the city, and it will create a lot of job opportunities in the city. And I hope when I get elected that I can work with other members of the community to build the water park in Tallahassee.
Very good, sir. Mr. Daly, your thoughts on that, sir?
Well, I can tell you what people think of Tallahassee. Once again, we were named one of the top 10 cities in the southeastern United States to live, work, and play. We were named one of the top 10 college towns in the southeastern United States to live, work, and play. By peer review, we're the #1 public utility in the nation. Last week, we had the designation of being named one of the most efficient cities with our services and budget. We are making great strides, and we're environmental leaders to our peers as well. And that is why we have one of the strongest, fastest growing economies per capita of any municipality in the state of Florida. Because people want to invest in Tallahassee, they want to live in Tallahassee, and they want to be here in Tallahassee to live, work, and play. So I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to do, even in spite of the challenges of a 100-year global pandemic, hurricane seasons that come and go, and all the other challenges that we've faced as a community. We are still nationally recognized as one of the best.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Leland, your thought, please.
Well, let's just be honest. Tallahassee, for the residents, I don't know because I look at it from the inside, and from the inside, when we look at what's going on and all our leaders and politicians, and now we seeing all these indictments come out, and cycles of, and the current city commission don't want to move on ethic reviews and making sure that they build transparency back into the city's trust. Everything that we the number one city, that look good on paper. But when you come down and you get on the ground, it looks nothing like that. So, the mayor job supposed to be is to build relationship and strengthen and bring everybody together, not stir confusion or not be willing to stand on transparency.
Thank you, sir. And we conclude with Ms. Dozier.
Thank you. The city has always been good at applying for awards. The mayor can cite one ranking after another. They all sound great. I don't think everyone's feeling it. The perception from the outside that I hear time and again from other leaders around the state, other businesses around the state, they are baffled. We led the way in setting aside a portion of our sales tax revenue for economic development. And instead of using it really creatively, we give a majority of it away to Doak Campbell Stadium for football. Everybody loves their stadiums around the state. Everybody loves football, but they are absolutely baffled that we would make that choice. They say that we are the most difficult community in the state to get permits and to build something. If you've built in other places, it is difficult here. There is a way to have effective, efficient permitting, but do it more efficiently. The mayor's role is to build consensus, is to be a leader and bring people together. Mayor Daly has promised that in 2018, and I don't think he has done enough to restore trust in the community, and people are still questioning.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll stop
Mayor
there.
Daly, she invoked your name. Would you like 20 seconds to respond?
Yeah, again, we have one of the fastest growing economies per capita in the state of Florida. We're environmental leaders, we're business leaders, and we've been able to be very successful with recruitment of economic development. You need a mayor who is going to be the face of Tallahassee, the voice of Tallahassee, who can bring people to the table and that want to be here. And I have been that mayor for the past 4 years, and I look forward to continuing to be that mayor.
All right. In the last few years, we routinely see 3-2 votes, particularly on big issues pertaining to development and ethics. What do you make of the political divide between what is otherwise a partisan-aligned city commission? We are starting with Whitfield Leland, the third on this.
Well, first of all, I don't think that the city commission job and the mayor and the city commission job is to dictate the way the city move and grow. I think if we look at some of these 3-2 votes, the 3-2 votes, the city, community, everybody that when I'm sitting in the big decisions, they didn't want them to vote that way. And at the end of the day, when you're not listening to the residents of the community, it's kind of hard to say that you support the community and that you're doing the best that you can for the community, because it's been an initiative that, the three side have been active support in the black community that they haven't. So,
Thank you. Mayor Daly, same question.
Well, I think when you look at the votes, look, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Lord knows I have won some and I have lost some throughout my entire political career. That's how the democratic process works. And it's great that people bring their strong feelings and philosophies to the table. This is how it works. But I will say that there are some philosophical differences on how we move forward as a city, especially when it comes to growth. This is a very important election. Since the comprehensive plan was created in 1990, we have added 100,000 residents to Tallahassee, yet the urban services boundary has only grown by 3%. Now, we've done a really good job with urban redevelopment, and we should continue to take advantage of those opportunities where we can. But if we don't have a hard conversation about how do we grow sustainably moving forward from here, it does bring out the philosophical differences.
Thank you. Kristen Dozier.
Thank you. In 12 years, I have never seen block voting the way we have in the last few years. We have some people who are more often than not accepting staff recommendation, and we have others who have a lot of different ideas, and there is a tremendous amount of tension on the city commission. I think we can all see that, we can all feel it, and it's holding us back. The mayor's role is to build consensus, to keep that dialogue open even when we disagree. The reference to growth, we have gotten into this battle where some people perceive any questions about how we grow as anti-growth. That's just ridiculous. If we want to grow in a very smart way, we need to be asking about the impact and we need to be taking action.
Thank you. Michael Eber.
So I think for a political divide to happen, that means that there is the leadership is not very strong. For a boat to have more than one captain, the boat usually doesn't go anywhere. I think the problem is that we have staff that can dictate what the leadership could do. And for every time we have a idea on the table that we have 3 people saying yes, 2 people saying no, or we always have a stop. That's because we don't have a very strong leadership where people would rally around what's good for the community.
Thank you. Mayor Daly, it's been said there is a civility problem in local government. Is that just a buzzword to target those who would question the status quo? Or is there an actual issue with the decorum among elected officials and leaders? 45 seconds.
Yeah, when I ran on civility and transparency, and we've changed the way how we've done business in City Hall. Look, I will tell you that COVID has had an impact on politics. The last presidential election year had an impact on politics. It does seem to think that things are a little bit nastier. Heck, I cut my colleague off and had to publicly apologize. I mean, we're not perfect. I get that. But overall, I do think that there's a different approach when people come and testify. I start every meeting off reminding them of our civility pledge and trying to encourage people to help us set the record and show the world on how it's supposed to be done. And I'll continue to do so as we move forward.
Thank you. Kristen Dozier.
I take issue with that. I don't think we have seen enough change in transparency at City, and civility has gotten worse. We've seen a lack of civility, but to me, it's not the public speakers. Yes, we could say we've been through hard times. Everyone's been through hard times. But the public speakers that I hear are really similar to the public speakers I've been hearing for the last 12 years. The difference is the willingness to listen, the willingness to find consensus, to address questions even when they're difficult. When people approach the city with concerns, with suggestions, they are often met with the statements that everything's fine, don't worry about this. And that's not the right approach.
Michael Eber.
The problem is when the public officials believe that they know better than the public, that they are here to serve. We are here to serve. The mayor is here to serve, and serving comes from listening. And if we usually do not listen to the public, we cannot serve what the public need. And this is a big problem with our leadership. The leadership doesn't listen to the city, to the residents of the city, to what would make the city a better city. And under me, I will listen. I will have an open door policy. You cannot lead without listening to what others, to the advice that others can give you. And this is a problem. We have to listen to our people.
Whitfield Leland III.
Yes, I think it's a big issue. Even if, the civility pledge, if you don't listen to the people, what's the use of telling them to come up here and talk to you if you're not going to sit and listen to them? And transparency is at its worst. Like, at the end of the day, transparent truth will grow us. It's the lies, the scams, the schemes that's holding us back. And we need somebody that's going to be neutral in all situations, and pull this community together. Whether they rich, poor, homeless, they on the south side, north side, or Carolina.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Well, let's get into some economic development questions, if we could here. Numerous neighborhoods within Tallahassee and Leon County struggling with poverty. What role should local economic development efforts and development incentives play in promoting more equitable prosperity? And what's one specific plan that each of you would implement to make meaningful progress in this generational challenge? You get a minute for that. Let's start with you, Ms. Dosher.
Thank you very much. This is a critical issue, and it ties together affordable housing, poverty, a lot of the things that we've talked about today. Importantly, we had a plan to do this. Voters approved the referendum in 2014. We set aside 12% of our economic development funds to do something different. Some people have said, oh, we had programs before, we had infrastructure, that helps economic development. It wasn't getting the job done, and that's why so many of us supported that plan, including all of our chambers. The decision to give away $27 million for improvements at Doak has vastly diminished our ability to recruit new businesses, to support local businesses, and particularly minority and women-owned businesses. I'm currently chair of the Appalachia Regional Planning Council. We have a revolving loan fund, $200,000 from the Office of Economic Vitality. We brought home $800,000 from the federal government. That has supported many minority and women-owned businesses in the community. They're growing jobs, they're growing their businesses right now, and these are folks who couldn't necessarily qualify for traditional loans. We should do more of that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Leland, your turn.
Well, I think if we focus more on letting the CRA do the CRA job, as far as the city use CRA funding to fund neighborhood first plans. Those plans should be funded by the city, totally, to be totally honest. And if these areas are poverty stricken because the people in these communities go to the city with business plans, ideas and creative ideas for their community, and they're met with resistance because it doesn't meet their standards. And at the end of the day, in these communities, we got to let the residents of their community build their own community, because that's how they're going to sustain their own economical growth. We can't put a hen house and tell somebody to deal with the chickens that they ain't never been a farmer. So we got to let them build their communities the way that they see fit, and the city don't do that now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Daly.
We are investing in neighbors, and we are investing in neighborhoods. One of the first votes as mayor that I took was to approve the funding for $6.5 million for the Greater Bond Neighborhood Association. And then we moved forward and we approved another $6.2 million for the Frenchtown Neighborhood Association. And then we went ahead and for the first time in the history of the city put a line item in our budget for the Griffin Heights Neighborhood Association. I am the only candidate that voted in support of the neighborhood grocery store in Griffin Heights. I am the only candidate that voted in favor of COVID relief dollars for our small businesses. I am the only candidate that voted for $270 million worth of infrastructure improvements through the blueprint budget on the south side of Tallahassee. This is investing in our neighborhoods. This is sidewalks on Stuckey Street. This is the parks that we have on FAMU Way. This is our stormwater system that keeps our land clean and the environment safe. And I'm proud to have supported all of these efforts, and I'm the only one that can. And the city is moving forward with investing in our neighborhoods and investing in our neighbors. And I'm proud of the work that we've been able to do.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ibrahim.
Well, I'm the only one who spoke about building a new project so far. I think building a project like a water park will bring a lot of employment. It will bring a lot of quality of life to the residents of Tallahassee, and it will bring a lot of jobs to maintain the water park. Another thing is we, as a city, have to move from being just a college town to an actual middle-sized American city. Tallahassee have very few factories, if any. Our industry basically depends on college students, and we have to diversify. We cannot be like a country that depends on oil export for its funds. This is what Tallahassee is, and this is what FSU to Tallahassee is. FSU is our oil. And if students do not come into FSU, businesses struggle, city residents struggle. And I think we have to diversify. I think we have to create programs that teach the younger generation plumbing, coding, things that could be useful in the future.
Okay, sir. While we're with you here, Mr. Ibrahim, do we have a gentrification problem in Tallahassee? And in 45 seconds, if you believe we do,
Yes.
could you answer what one way you would help to fix that might be?
So we have to be a more walkable city. We have to be a more bike-friendly city. We are, God blessed us with a lot of trees, a lot of greenery, but we're not using it toward making us a more walkable city. There is a reason why a lot of residents in Tallahassee like to move to Southwood, the community in Southeast Tallahassee, and that's because how walkable it is and how it's very walkable. You can bike, you can walk, and I think we have to provide places to where people can bike safely. Like while I'm driving and I'm looking at the bike lane, I would be scared riding a bike in such a small lane with cars coming right behind me very fast. I think we have to focus more on things that are healthier for our residents. Cars are very important, but we have to promote biking, we have to promote walking, and we have to promote public transport.
Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Daly, please.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. Do we have a gentrification problem in Tallahassee? And if so, again, 45 seconds, what would you do to turn that around?
Well, we're working hard to make sure that we don't gentrify our neighborhoods. One of the first actions that we took in Frenchtown alone was putting a moratorium in place against the student housing complexes that were making their way into Frenchtown and making sure that we preserve the heritage of Frenchtown. It's the oldest continuous African-American neighborhood in the state of Florida. We've also gotten really creative with our land use policy, specifically with inclusionary housing, to make sure that we provide affordable housing all over the city of Tallahassee and not concentrated all in specific areas. Yes, we constantly work at new and creative ways to retool our mass transit system, and we're leaders in that realm as well. We are the only community in the United States that runs a 100% electric bus fleet on Florida State's campus, and we're very proud of that and the recharging stations that we have as well.
Okay, Whitfield Leland III, your thoughts there, sir.
First of all, I want to, at the end of the day, they throw out numbers like he just said. We spent $6.5 million in bond, but they made that $6.5 million. They made them pay for a haunted pond in the park. The $6.2 million they spent for, and they gave Frenchtown. The residents asked that I be on the reviewing committee. The city told them no. So that's why I'm trying to say the things that the residents want, the city dictates and control. And yes, there's a gentrification problem. And the only way we're going to stop it is we stop displacing people. Orange Avenue Park, prime example. Back in a long time ago, 4th Avenue Park, Frenchtown, prime example. And he said they put a moratorium so student housing can't come in. No, student housing can go nowhere unless they vote for them to go there.
Okay, thank you, sir. And Kristen Dozier.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of creative approach that we could take with our zoning and our land use. We talked about this at a recent comp plan meeting in looking at changes in Griffin Heights, in Frenchtown, and other places to prevent additional student housing. So I think the city has taken a small step. We could do a lot more. I'm a little confused by the statements about the inclusionary housing policy. City and County Commission both directed our staff to redo that policy. We expect a new one to come back next spring because the counties has not worked at all, and the cities, to my knowledge, has only been used by 1 or 2 developers, and it has not worked. So we are in progress to improve that policy, but it's not working right now, and we can do a lot more.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Blueprint. Whitfield Leland III, this is coming to you first. 12% of the Blueprint funds are to be spent for economic development projects having a general public purpose of improving local economies. What was your position on the recent allocation of $27 million to renovate Doak Campbell Stadium from the Blueprint money required to be spent for economic development projects? Please explain your answer. You have 1 minute.
Well, I'm going to be honest. and I said this in the meeting. I don't feel like we as a city just say no to dope, but I felt like the money should have came from somewhere else. I didn't feel like it should have came from that pot of money. If that pot of money is for economic development. And when we're talking about the people in the areas that it's supposedly fund, to me, it's been a bust since they brought it in 3 years. Like, it really haven't done what it was supposed to done. I don't know if that's for the lack of oversight or the lack of ideas of people at the table. But I would have voted no, and we would have figured out another way to get Dope Campbell some help than bankrupting OEV.
Thank you. John Daly, same question to you.
I supported the investment in Doak Campbell Stadium, Bragg Stadium, and TCC Stadium as well. In an article that was just published last week in the Tallahassee Democrat, it noted that we are about to break records of tourism here in Tallahassee, and that 1 out of every 5 people that come to Tallahassee is collegiate sports related. And in fact, collegiate football is the #1 driver of a $1 billion tourism industry here. The return on investment is about $80 million annually. And so I thought it was a good investment. We're creating jobs and we're sustaining jobs of local businesses that are here that do benefit off of game weekends when people come to town. And so we are a college town. It is the #1 driver of our economy for the tourism industry. And so I thought it was a great investment. Now, having said that, there's this debate about we're draining the budget for economic development dollars. And number one, that is false. There is over $12 million still left in that fund, about $3.5 million that's unencumbered. But the city has also been very successful in recruiting without those economic development dollars needed.
Thank you. Kristen Dozier.
I think most people know that I voted against this funding, and I led the effort, and I'm proud of that, to retain the funding and keep our promises to the people of Tallahassee, to use it for job creation, to support local businesses, entrepreneurs, and to recruit new businesses. The numbers that were quoted, 80 million annual impact of a football season, that's what we had in 2019. The investment of our money, $27 million, is not going to increase the return that we get from a football season for the tourism dollars. The county years ago put in about $1.5 million, it's a little more now, to a cross-country track. That attracts an incredible number of people to our community. There's a lot we can do on tourism. It's a good engine, but we should not put all of our eggs in one basket. Importantly, the $27 million, and 7 of that, 6.5, was debt service. We had to borrow this money. Yes, we have about $3 million left, but if we think about that in comparison to the $22 million we allocated in the first 2 years, over 3,000 jobs, we know how much we lost.
Thank you.
And this was a bad decision.
Michael Ibrahim, we'll finish it off with you.
So, $1 million is a lot of money. In my life, I've sold merchandise worth more than $1 million. I realize how hard it is to get just $1 million in sales, let alone $27 million. The problem is we are investing in FSU, which is great. FSU is a great university, and we should maintain FSU. The $27 million invested in a stadium versus invested in other places that would help benefit more residents in Tallahassee was a bad idea. God forbid what happened if another big pandemic come around and we cannot have football for 2 years. We just wasted $27 million. So again, when we doubling down on just one industry, one sector, which is FSU, we are ignoring everything else. And what happened if that sector, God forbid, goes down, we just wasted $27 million.
Whitfield Leland III, what was your position on the recent allocation of $27 million for Doak Campbell Stadium?
Well, I wouldn't have voted for him. Like I said earlier, I think we should have got the money from somewhere else, because that's clearly that the city, even the residents, they were out in numbers, and the city commissioners that voted for it, they didn't hear it. And then you had one rescind, but what difference did it make? Because it's the way they voted. So I would have voted no in the blueprint, but I would have encouraged my colleagues to let's find this money somewhere else in our budgets or wherever. Because Doak Campbell, Florida State, TCC, FAMU, they are a vital part of this community. I've been here all my life, so yeah.
Thank you. John Daly and Kristen Dozier, the both of you served on the Blueprint Board. Do you have any regrets on how this all played out? 30 seconds, and we'll start with you, Kristen.
I think it's fair to say I do have regrets about it playing out. We fought hard until the very end. Some keep trying to talk about not supporting the budget and the South Side projects and other things like that. This was such a significant issue. I had supported all of those projects that were in the budget in September, but I took the extraordinary step to vote against the budget because of Doak. Because at that time, we did not have all of the information. We did not hear from all of the public, and we had to continue it. So yes, I regret that choice.
Thank you. We'll let you have the final word on this issue. John Daly, do you have any regrets with how it all played out?
I regret this become political fodder during election season. We took 5 votes on this issue, and this really wasn't the big deal that it was until about the 3rd and the 4th vote. The 1st and 2nd vote were the crucial votes for approval. But it is election season, and I understand that. But look, we're always going to be upset or disappointed or happy, depending on where we are, and this is the democratic process. A majority of the board voted in favor of it to move forward. And so on this particular vote, those that were not in support of it are going to be disappointed.
Thank you.
All right, we're changing up the speed a little bit here. We're doing our lightning round. That means most of these questions are going to kind of be a yes or no type question, looking for a answer to that regard and a sentence of explainer. Just a sentence. You can add an and, add a because, but you don't want to make it a run-on sentence. There's teachers watching. We will begin here with you at the top of the order, John Daly. How many city commission meetings have you attended, and how many have you spoken? You know what? I think I'm going to skip you two on this one because
Fair enough.
I've heard you speak at such meetings. Michael Ibrahim. How many city commission meetings have you attended, and how many have you spoken at? And on what topics?
0 and 0. I am always busy on my business. It's very hard being a business owner, very hard being a small business owner in Tallahassee.
Whitfield Leland III.
More times than I can remember.
On what topics?
Affordable housing, CRA, policing.
Okay.
Pretty much.
All right, thank you. Kristen Dozier, what does the word progress for Tallahassee mean to you?
Progress means making a sustainable economy, a sustainable community that benefits everyone, not just one part of the community, not just some types of businesses, but really moving all of us forward.
Michael Ibrahim.
Eliminating homelessness, bringing higher paying jobs, and opening up more sectors in Tallahassee.
Thank you. Whitfield Leland III.
Collaboration with our local partners, nonprofits, and the residents of this community.
John Daly.
Jobs and economic opportunity for all.
What is one pledge you would make to voters right now that you will accomplish if elected? Michael Ibrahim.
I will build a water park in Tallahassee.
Thank you. Whitfield Leland III.
We will review and have a review of the ethics forum.
Thank you. Mayor Daly.
I am pushing hard for a full charter review commission.
Thank you. With the goal of?
A full charter review commission that is seated and operates.
Kristen Dozier.
We need a full performance review of the city budget and the departments, and to improve transparency and responsiveness to the community.
Thank you. What's your advice to the CSC as it weighs whether to increase its millage rate and property taxes? Whitfield Leland III.
Well, I asked them not to. I was at that meeting. I asked them not to do it. I think we're good where we at.
Thank you. Mayor Daly.
As a strong supporter of CSC, follow your heart, do your homework, listen to everyone, and collaborate.
Kristen Dozier.
I'm a strong supporter of the CSC, but we are in the very first early phases of this, and I think it may be premature to raise any taxes right now, given the economy,
Thank you.
and we need to learn a little bit more.
Michael Ibram.
It would not be right raising taxes when gas is almost $5 a gallon.
All right. Have you received any bundled contributions from developers or others who give under numerous corporation names or related individuals? John Daly.
Yes.
Kristen Dozier.
No.
Michael Ibram.
No.
Whitfield Leland III.
No.
Are there any limits to who you will accept campaign contributions from? Kristen Dozier.
I'm sure there are groups that I would not expect or accept contributions from. That has not been an issue. And I just want to make sure, William, that I answered your last question. You meant in the 2018 race, correct?
Sure. So I'm
Okay.
taking that in the past.
In 2010, things were different, and 2014. But in this cycle, in this race, in 2018 for mayor, the answer is no.
Okay. Thank you. Has anyone ever answered that question? I think so. What is no, never mind. Are there any limits on who will accept campaign contributions? Kristen Dozier answered. Michael Ibram.
Definitely groups that I do not feel comfortable with them supporting me. I would not accept donation from them.
Whitfield Levin III.
No special interest groups, no lobbyists, no corrupt people.
John Daly.
I would accept all legal contributions from individuals and entities that believe in my vision and have same shared goals.
Thank you. Michael Ibram, what is the biggest investment that needs to be made in the South Side?
Bringing in different sectors of technology. So FSU and FAMU bring up a lot of brain power in Tallahassee.
Okay. Thank you.
And I believe if we can copy what Silicon Valley have done in California, in Tallahassee,
keeping things moving. Whitfield Leland III.
we can be Silicon Valley.
Infrastructure.
Okay. John Daly.
Blueprint infrastructure and housing.
Kristen Dozier.
The blueprint infrastructure projects, which I did support, but importantly, sidewalks, street lighting, other improvements within the neighborhoods themselves.
Okay. Whitfield Leland, aside from family, who do you view as your local mentor in life and in pursuing this seat? Note the aside from family. Whitfield Leland.
Couple people. Benny Bolden, Akbar, Kenny Barbara. It's just a couple people out there.
Thank you. John Daly.
I have many people who I depend upon, who I see as mentors. Mike Siddick is a dear friend for one and truly understands municipal government.
Thank you. Kristen Dozier.
I've heard you ask this question repeatedly, and it hadn't gotten any easier in the last few weeks. There's too many to count. I learn from everyone.
All right. Michael Ibram.
Who is a mentor? I think, can it be a previous person, or does
Sure.
I think Martin Luther King.
Okay.
That's a mentor for me.
All right. Thank you. The city manager serves at the pleasure of the city commission. Reese Goad has been serving as city manager since 2018. What letter grade would you give to Reese Goad this year and why? John Daly.
A.
Kristen Dozier.
I'm going to say a C+. The reason why I have not seen enough change at City Hall with transparency, with responsiveness to the community, and we continue to see conflicts arising internally and externally.
Michael Ibram.
D.
Explanation?
We had 2 mayors that have been indicted.
Okay.
Something is wrong in City Hall.
Whitfield Leland.
I'm gonna have to give him a C. And yeah, I'll leave it like that.
Okay. Kristen Dozier, name one specific thing the city is not spending enough money on and one thing the city is spending too much money on.
I'm going to take it in reverse. The too much money, I'm not sure we know where there's too much money being spent. We need a good analysis of our process, of the efficiency between departments. Do you want me to answer the second part?
Sure, very quickly.
Not investing enough money is in our neighborhoods, in the South Side, improving the infrastructure. They've gotten a good start. We need to do more.
Thank you. Michael Ivory.
We're not spending enough money on infrastructure. We're not spending enough money on salaries for police officers. And I think we are spending a lot of money on projects that retain to only one institution.
Thank you. Whitfield Levin.
I don't know what we spending too much money on because, we don't see budgets and where it ain't broke down like that. But what we're not spending enough money on is truly addressing poverty.
Thank you. John Daly.
I can honestly say that we could probably spend more money on just about every aspect of municipal government. And we work really hard every year to make sure that we streamline our budget process and that we're not overfunding projects. One of the reasons why we were just named one of the most efficient cities between our budget and services that we provide in the United States.
Thank you. Last question of the lightning round, what is the single biggest thing you've done in the community to make the city a better place to live? The single biggest thing. Michael Ivory.
I tried my very best to have very affordable tires for everyone that need to buy tires.
Thank you. Whitfield Levin III.
Say it again?
The single biggest thing you've done in the community to make the city a better place to live.
Being an asset to the community and resource.
Thank you. Mayor John Daly.
Being the jobs mayor and passing the strongest ethics reform package in the 198-year history of the city.
Thank you. Kristen Dozier.
Collaborating with everyone, and finally leading the way to restructure Innovation Park, which will open up new jobs and new opportunities and has brought home more than $12 million into our community and will continue to compound that investment and create new jobs in the near future.
Y'all made it.
All right. Yes. Good job. Let's revisit a somewhat sticky issue that we kind of talked a little bit about before, but we can drill down a little bit deeper here. Please talk about whether the city's current ethics code is adequate, especially regarding such things as lobbyist regulation, and also whether you support the Independent Ethics Board having jurisdiction over board members and staff of the Community Redevelopment Agency, also known as the CRA board, along with the Blueprint Intergovernmental Agency. A lot of stuff there, and let's boil it down to 1 minute each. And Mr. Leland, if we could start with you, please, sir.
Okay, I do agree with oversight. I do agree that we need a strong reform in ethics. What the mayor said he did, that's only a small piece of it. If you're still having transparent issues and you're still having distrust with the community, so I think we need to separate the two, especially when it comes down to the CRA. I think they need more oversight other than the Inspector General's office or the city attorney. So yeah, I do think we need to make it where that they operate within these local government agencies, operate within the sunshine to an extent, and have an outside, like the ethics board, be a governing body. Yes, so I do agree.
Okay, Mr. Ibrahim.
So yes, we do need to have more people involved in the decision making. I think to only have 5 people deciding on whether or not to spend $27 million on a certain project, it need to be more vote than just 5 people, even if those 5 people are the commissioners. I think we should bring more people to the table. We should have more discussions because money is getting harder to come by, and we should be very resourceful with the resources we have.
Okay, Kristen Dozier.
We took some steps and improved the ethics code, and it is pretty strong at both the city, and we've also done that at the county. That is good. But the ethics board and the conversation of the city commission has been plagued by disagreements and by just a lot of conflict for the last few years, and we need to get beyond that. There were recommendations to improve or to change the lobbyist definition. I think there were some good recommendations from the board and from the city attorney, and that stopped because they were told we would be out of step with Blueprint of the CRA. Well, that's pretty easy to change. Go introduce a motion at Blueprint and change that definition. We could take those steps. It just stops on that conflict and we're not moving forward. The last thing I'm going to say is that this is more than just ethics rules. That's good to keep us in line and good when somebody gets out of line. But we need to look at the transparency and what happens within City Hall to prevent people from taking these actions in the first place.
Okay, thank you. John Daly.
As a candidate for mayor 4 years ago, I stood before the public at Tallahassee and campaigned on ethics reform, and I delivered on my word. We passed the strongest ethics reform package in the 198-year history of the city of Tallahassee, and one of the strongest ethics reform packages in the state of Florida. In fact, we have other cities calling us, asking us how we did it, and just now the state legislature passed a bill that mirrored what we passed with full financial disclosure. I'm very proud of that. Now, are we done? Absolutely not. In fact, at the July 13th meeting coming up, we have a whole nother round of items to consider to add into our ethics policy. We will continue to work on building a stronger ethics policy because you're never done. We decided on specific language so that we can make sure that everybody in the city government that has procurement responsibilities would fall under. It does not matter if I'm serving as the mayor of Tallahassee at the city commission or on the CRA or on Blueprint. Yes, jurisdiction should cover my actions on all of those boards. Unfortunately, the county does not want to fall under the city's ethics boards, and it's a jurisdictional issue that we would have to work through.
All right, a follow-up if we could, and then we'll reverse course on this across the board. We just had our second former mayor to be indicted for corruption charges. Does this say anything about the city at large? Are we looking at patterns of behavior, a culture problem at City Hall? John Daly, what do you think?
Well, it's really tough being the mayor of the city of Tallahassee and for the past several years having to guide this city through these federal corruption trials. And I can first say that there is nothing that we're going to put in an ethics ordinance that's going to prevent the behavior of what we have witnessed amongst. I mean, this is criminal behavior, not just ethical behavior. Is there a pattern? I promise you that the federal government and the state government has turned over every rock at City Hall. We have been fully compliant with working with them to make sure that they have everything that they need. If there are more indictments to come, let it be. But I feel very comfortable with the direction of the city and how we're moving forward.
Okay, Kristen Dozier.
I haven't seen anyone within the city guiding us through all of the challenges we've had in recent years. I've heard a lot of, hey, we've had ethics reform, we've done this, we've done that, those people are in jail, and deservedly so. What we need to focus on is that slippery slope that allows someone, whether they're looking for personal gain, whether that's money or power, that prevents them from sliding down and taking advantage of the city operations. The trust in city government was decimated before 2018, and it has not improved in the last few years. And it's not only because people wonder if there's still corruption going on, but it's because of the tone that's set and the conflicts. They're not seeing a lot of progress. We need to do more.
Okay, Michael Ibrahim.
Yes, so if we have two mayors previous mayors getting arrested, that means we have a big corruption problem, and it's not being taken care of because corruption breeds more corruption. And if we do not fix the problem, it will keep expanding. It's just like cancer. If someone get cancer, they can get it fixed at stage 1. But if we let it go to stage 3 or 4, now cancer taking over the body, and it's very bad. So there is, I believe, a culture of corruption that have to be taken care of. I think having staffs bringing in other family member to work within the same department, that is something that need to be addressed because we cannot keep doing the same thing and think that something will change. That doesn't happen. We have to bring more innovative idea. We have to show that corruption does not end well for whoever promote corruption or whoever benefit from corruption.
Okay, and Mr. Leland, please.
Well, it's the job of the mayor, city commission, any elected official is to be a public servant. And if and when that person, female or male, starts to not serve the public and start serving special interests, developers and money, that's when we're going to have an issue. I think Andrew Gillen was just a stem of all of them being together because all of them sat up on the same. They was in there together. So I don't think I ain't gonna say John Daly corrupt, but it's a group of people who you hang out with. Birds of a feather flock together, and I think it's more coming out. I don't think we're done yet, and that's just my opinion. But yeah, I think the mayor. I don't really know what to say about that, but if the mayors serve and not serve special interests, we wouldn't have all this corruption.
Okay, that brings us to our last follow-up, and the two folks I will mention will have the initial opportunity to respond, but you two gentlemen who are also running would like to get your thoughts as well. And this is a 30-second response, although we could talk for a long time about this. In past election cycles, both John Daly and Kristen Dozier took campaign contributions from companies affiliated with J.T. Burnett. Now, he was the guy convicted in that City Hall corruption scheme last year, along with Scott Maddox. John Daly, your campaign manager, is a former close associate with Scott Maddox, and Kristen Dozier, you bought a house from J.T. Burnett. So are connections to people who are ensnared in the FBI probe a legitimate issue in the campaign? Mr. Daly, I mentioned you first. You go first, please.
Sure. Well, the campaign donation that you're referencing, by the way, I believe was one check, and I believe that was 10 years ago. And I think you've done the research, you know that. It wasn't bundled checks in the last election cycle from all of his companies. So I think that's a big difference right there as well. But look, my campaign manager is great. He's based out of Tampa. He runs a company. He's had many, many clients across the state of Florida and even in the southeastern United States. He runs a great program, and he's never been in any trouble, or his company. Therefore, I wouldn't have hired him.
Okay, very
And
good.
are the connections to people ensnared in the FBI probe a legitimate issue in this campaign?
Absolutely.
Okay, Kristen Dozier.
The donations and lots of different, I'll back up here. J.T. Burnett and others were working on a lot of different issues through the blueprint process, through a lot of different things. None of us knew what was coming down the pike. We didn't know there would be subpoenas and there would be indictments, and he's in jail, and deservedly so, as I said before. I do think that, and you invoked it, Tom, the House issue, the mayor has said that he thinks it's fair game. I know that he included it in a poll that he put out there. That is the same thing as the donations. It was a perfectly normal, legitimate house purchase.
Is to the core of the question is it fair game that connections to people ensnared in the FBI probe a legitimate issue in this campaign?
Thank you. You all packed a lot into that one question. If there is something legitimate, it would be fair game. But I don't think the donations or the House are legitimate. They've been looked at in the past.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Abraham, your thought.
Well, I'm glad I'm not sitting at that table. So, yes. So if it was me and I received donation from someone who maybe I did not know he was corrupt, that donation would be donated to a fund in the city of Tallahassee, because I would not accept money from someone who does harm to others. So Daly mentioned it was just one check, but I mean, it could be a small check of $1 million. Who knows? So we got, how much was that one check?
$250.
Okay, take us home, Mr. Leland, please.
I do think it plays a role, especially in the back of people's mind, about who you're being connected to, and then when you look at what's been going on, Commissioner Dozier and the mayor have been around for the last 12 years, and this just happened 4 years ago. So that's 8 years of understanding what's going on. So, I mean, yeah, it plays a role, but I don't think, it makes a real big difference as far as shots that people taking. I mean, If it's some legitimacy there, deal with it. But just because she brought a house, I mean, who cares?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, for the sake of time, we're going to wrap this up with one more question before closing remarks. What is your reaction to the Supreme Court ruling on Roe v. Wade, and is there a further role for the city to play? One sentence.
Very disappointed.
Is there a role for the city?
The city does not regulate abortion or health care, but the city has taken a position, and I was very proud to make my position known in favor of a woman's right to choose.
Thank you. Kristen Dozier.
Devastated. Spoke at the rally the day the decision was handed down. My mother stood with me, and it was an emotional day. I think the role for the city particularly, but city, county, for all of us, is to pay attention to women's health care and reproductive rights in our community as much as we can do.
Thank you. Michael Ibrahim.
You know, they say that man is the head of the family, but what a lot of people forget to mention is that woman is the neck of the family. Without a neck, the head cannot do anything. I believe that, you know, with abortion, you know,
Is there a role for the city to play here?
the city have to promote health, and the city have to promote healthy individuals.
Thank you.
And if a woman must have abortion to remain healthy, I think the city have to support her.
Thank you. Whitfield Leland III, finish us off here.
I was disappointed, but I do think that at some kind of way, the city should at least try to play some type of role, even if we have to create one.
Thank you.
All right, y'all made it to the end. It's closing time, so we're racing the clock. You each have 90 seconds to close. Speak directly to voters. You can mention your website if you like. Kristen Dozier, we're going to start with you and work our way across the order. Go.
Thank you. Really enjoyed today. Thank you much for all you're doing to inform our community. I'm Kristen Dozier, obviously running for mayor. This has been a good race so far. It's been quick. After 12 years of having the great honor of serving the people of Leon and Tallahassee on the county commission, I have consistently worked hard, listened to your ideas, to your concerns, and tried to find creative solutions to a lot of the challenges we face. I would bring that same skill and track record into the City Hall as your next mayor of Tallahassee. I know that we have experienced a lot of challenges in recent years. We all know that. I don't believe that any of us think that we have resolved all those issues. We can do better. We must do better. We got to improve transparency, but we got to really collaborate. We got to get creative in job creation, addressing affordable housing, smart, responsible land use and environmental policy. All of those things I've worked on for years, and I will, as your next mayor, continue to work on them at the city. And I think we can do a tremendous amount more if we have real change at City Hall that improves the culture, improves transparency, and ends the turf wars that are holding us back. The website, Dozier for Mayor 2022, little complicated. Somebody bought the other one. I don't play those games, but Dozier for Mayor 2022. We're on social media, looking for your support. But any questions, any suggestions, I hope to talk with you, and I look forward to a great summer of campaigning. Thank you.
Michael Ibrahim.
So I'm running because of a lot of my customers that told me, hey, Mike, maybe you should run for mayor. I realize it is a David versus Goliath battle, maybe two Goliaths, but we all know who won at the end. I believe in cooperation, I believe in freedom, and I believe that this city will be a great American city that does not only depend on FSU and FAMU, but also have other sectors, have a strong economy that we can go and tackle the 21st century. I believe we can be Silicon Valley of the East. I believe we can create a lot of opportunities and a lot of jobs. I am working on my website. The guy in Fiverr is taking time to build it. It should be ready soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Whitfield Leland III.
My name is Whitfield Levin. I'm a lifetime resident. I grew up here in Tallahassee in the Frenchtown area. I've been here all my life. I started a community roundtable about 7 years ago. Got into the nonprofit world, getting to the community, serving the community, and I realized elected officials are really not taking care of the heart of our communities. We build all around our communities. We continue to displace people, giving them false hopes of being able to move and afford this house and that house, and then when they move on a voucher, then they homeless 6 months later. I believe that we need to bring transparency to City Hall. I believe that City Hall needs new leadership. I think we need young, innovative, and I think we need somebody that's going to be willing to say, hey, I was wrong. Hey, what can we do to fix this? Hey, bring everybody to the table. I think that it's a job for somebody that's going to not be personally driven about their ideas, but what the community wants. And I'm running for mayor because I feel like I could bring this community together and we can grow.
John Daly, last word.
My name's John Daly, and for the past 4 years, it has been an honor and a privilege to serve as your mayor. And I stood before you 4 years ago as a candidate and promised that we were going to clean up City Hall and pass ethics reform, and we did. I kept my word. I promised you that we were going to work hard on those quality of life issues that mean so much to each and every one of us. It makes Tallahassee so special. That's why we're one of the top cities in the southeastern United States. But what none of us could have figured out 4 years ago is what we would face together. For a 100-year global pandemic, I was your mayor that helped get this community through. With protests in the streets on social injustice issues that we must address, I was your mayor that helped this community get through and continue that conversation. When we have domestic terrorist threats on the state capitol, I'm your mayor that has to work with the governor and all of our law enforcement agencies to keep us safe. We could have never predicted what we've been through, but you have had steady leadership in the mayor's office and in City Hall. And I'm asking for your vote for another 4 years. We've got challenges, and we have to continue to work on. But we live in the best city, in the best country. And we are going to attack these challenges, and we're going to move forward. We have one of the strongest growing economies per capita in the state of Florida, and we're going to continue to invest. We're going to create jobs and the economic opportunities so that everyone has an opportunity to grow. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for your vote.
And thank you, candidates, for joining us today. And thank you to the Tallahassee Democrat, the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee, and WFSU Public Media for the program. You can find a replay of our forum on our YouTube pages, Tallahassee.com, also WFSU.org. Plus, the recorded broadcast will be this Wednesday, July 7th at 11 a.m. on WFSU 88.9 FM.
Our next forum will be Tuesday, July 12th at 1 p.m., and it will be with the two candidates for Tallahassee City Commission Seat 3. The candidates are David Bellamy and Jeremy Arthur Matlow.
Racing the clock, you can look for our special election section of the Tallahassee Democrat with interviews with all the candidates, including them, which will be printed and inserted on Sunday, August 7th. Have a great day. Thank you all for listening.